Hi everybody, welcome to, well, you know what this is. So first I want to say thank you very much for all the requests for me to come back and do some videos here. I do feel the love, I very much appreciate it. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I reached out and asked people for questions, especially in this moment of coronavirus. I did get a lot of personal questions about kind of what's going on here in Italy and just my life in general, but I'm gonna actually leave that stuff till the end of the video and I'll put a timestamp because you might not be that interested. If you are new to this channel or if this is your first time watching me, welcome. I want to give you a quick little bit of background before we jump into the questions. My name is Jill and I'm a former ultramarathoner. I study at Harvard University Extension School where I'm trying to get a master's degree in psychology. My area of study is endurance exercise, overtraining, hypothalamic amenorrhea, and all those lovely things all together. I study mental health and performance, but I don't just work with athletes, I work with regular people too who are interested in fitness and want to improve their relationship with their bodies and their sport and their mind and the world. Okay, next week it's going to actually be 4 years since I personally recovered from hypothalamic amenorrhea. I can't believe it's been that long, but it actually has been 4 years, which is amazing. So if you're watching this video here or if you follow me on Instagram, chances are some of the things that are going to be top of mind for you are going to be things like restriction of food, over exercise, and it's important for us to understand that in a lot of cases those things are a response to anxiety. Therefore, when we're all placed in a situation like we are right now where anxiety is just universally cranked up to like 1,000,000, you have to imagine that habits and thoughts that you used to have before are just also going to be cranked up at this time. Some of those voices are going to get louder, and for those of you who have stopped really listening to those voices, those things may sound like a good idea again in a moment of extreme anxiety. If you're an athlete, you're going to have increased anxiety about sort of your performance and where is this all going? Are you going to be able to compete again? What happens if you are peaking for races that are not happening anymore? A lot of these things are going to be weighing heavily on all of us. So it's important to know that as a baseline, we are all far and above our normal level of anxiety. Therefore, our response is going to be far and above a normal level. I also want to mention that anxiety, or especially in moments of crisis, it is kind of a good thing, and I'm going to tell you why. Anxiety means that you're aware. It is a function, it is a way that we know that you are aware of what's going on. You're not hiding out, you're not in denial, you are understanding in some way that this is going to bring a lot of changes, and so anxiety is a natural response to that. So we're all going to take a breath, we're going to realize that this is scary for everyone. Realize that we're not alone. But also important in this is to understand that we're not going back, we're designing a new way forward. Okay, so question number 1. Is now a good time to heal hypothalamic amenorrhea? Okay, I just laid down for you like how anxiety producing all this stuff is, and so the natural question would be, is this the right time for me to tackle this? My answer is absolutely, because now is a time that you are able to reprioritize, you can work on honing your coping skills, and you can work on this thing that we're all trying to do, which is to redefine what is important to you. There have been many occasions when I have talked to people, I talk to clients about coaching them through hypothalamic amenorrhea, and one of the things that people tend to complain about a lot is context. What I mean by that is that sometimes it can be difficult for people to put aside their sort of judgments about themselves and their thought processes because of the context that they're in. They're going to the gym, they're seeing different bodies, they're on a sports team, they're living this life that kind of hems them into an old mindset that isn't serving them anymore. So now that we are all in this different place where everything is unknown and marching forward is really of our own design, removing that context can actually be a really beneficial thing for you. Number 2 question is, how can I appreciate the increased amount of rest days that I have? So let's remember some really important facts about stress. Stress is physical, stress is mental. Stress is the thing, taken all together, that disrupts the normal function of the hormones. This means that in moments of stress, your body is kind of already running like a half marathon every day as it is. I some days feel like I am running ultras every day because this is crazy, okay? It really is. You have to understand that your body is already undergoing a huge amount of stress. So when you have a rest day, you may not be actually exercising, but your body is still in full stress mode. It is still in fight or flight because of the surrounding environment. So you have to think of a rest day as a turbocharger for recovery. It is the time where your body actually is able to recuperate from all of the stuff that is going on. Again, remember, super high level right now. A rest day is something that gets you closer to recovery. Every rest day that you have, meaning a day without exercise, because remember, you're not really resting, your brain is still going right now. So a day away from exercise is a day that you can mitigate some of the problems that we're all going to be having because of the amount of stress we're under. I also want to make mention of the fact that a lot of the questions are coming from people who are living in the United States or certainly North America, where you are not on home lockdown as we are here in Italy. So for those of us who can't leave the house, like myself, these rest days are going to mean different things for different people, or I should say days of exercise are going to mean different things for different people. Some people in the United States are still able to get out and go and walk and run and do all these things. Here in Europe, we cannot do that. So let's try to keep in mind the ICU. I know that everyone has different degrees of what they're able to accomplish right now. So the advice still stands. A recovery day, a rest day is much needed, whether you're out of the house or in the house or wherever you are. Next question I have here is about something that really makes me a little bit upset. The question is, should I be force feeding myself in this time where I don't want to be eating because I am exercising less and I am trying to recover from hypothalamic amenorrhea? Okay, let me just say this. There is a lot of junk information out there online with regard to hypothalamic amenorrhea recovery. I'm looking at you, Facebook support groups. Listen, if that is where you're getting your support and you're enjoying being in those groups, great, but I have 9 clients out of 10 that tell me that they're really struggling with some of the messages that they're getting from those supposed support groups. Let me tell you something about this concept of force feeding, okay? A lot of these things, it's language that comes from eating disorder recovery, and I will still stand by this for as long as I live. Not everyone who has hypothalamic amenorrhea, especially those who come from the side of having been an athlete, has an eating disorder, and therefore the protocols that work for eating disorder do not always work for hypothalamic amenorrhea and vice versa. I am not an expert in eating disorders. I did not have an eating disorder myself, and therefore I cannot speak to eating disorders. But what I can tell you is that force feeding or doing anything that is otherwise injurious to your person, something that is going to be hurtful to you and make you sick and sad and in pain, is not what recovery is about. Recovery should be uncomfortable, but it should not cause you pain. Should you encourage yourself to eat without guilt and freely and eat to your cravings and personal level of satiety in these moments? Yes, you should. Should you care for yourself and nourish your body with vitamins and minerals and calories, even in the times where you're not really sure if your appetite is there or if you should be eating? Yes, you should. The rest of it is just, this is where I stay quiet. Take care of yourself, be kind to yourself. If you have more questions about this, please email me. Next question is, can hypothalamic amenorrhea always be recovered from? And I would encourage you to have conversations with your qualified healthcare practitioner about this, but in the absence of any other pathology, and if the reason for the hypothalamic amenorrhea is what we think it is, which is an energy deficiency because of a lack of calories or too much burning of calories via exercise or training, the answer is yes. Next question is, how do I fight my tendency to want to go back and track macros or just be really controlling about exercise and calories in this moment of anxiety? So I've kind of mentioned this at the beginning, which is to say that our response is, in the face of anxiety, is to kind of go back to those habits that kind of used to work for us, and work, I mean like with big air quotes there. The key to this is to understand your anxiety. And this is the part that can be difficult for people, but I would encourage you to do something different than a lot of people tell you to do. A lot of people will tell you, oh, just like divert your attention, or, start, learn to knit, or binge something on Netflix, or try a different activity. Those things can be helpful, but the best way to kind of understand where all this is going and sort of unravel the knot of your tendencies is to really understand where that anxiety comes from. We can divert ourselves only for a certain amount of time before those things kind of come back at us. That's why I always say you can run, but you can't hide. So it's important for us to kind of snuggle up to, or make friends with, our anxiety. Understand why it's there, where it comes from. I mean, obviously all of us have a certain amount of anxiety about, this whole coronavirus thing, but also we need to understand what is underneath that. What other personal anxieties do you have that you find yourself compensating for that are really just being whipped into a frenzy right now? So this is the place where I would say journal, have a conversation with someone that you trust. I know that there's a lot of online mental health practitioners that are reaching out to clients right now. If that is an option for you, I would encourage that. If it is not an option for you, this is where journaling can be really important. Next question is, how do I deal with other people's clumsy comments? Oh goodness, you know, a lot of us have family and friends that are trying to be supportive, but they're not. When we are recovering from hypothalamic amenorrhea, if you've watched my channel for a while, you've heard me tell stories of different people who have said crazy things to me over the years. The name of the game here is compassion in two ways. One, we have to have compassion for ourselves in this moment. We're gonna be super sensitive. Everything anyone says or kind of like looks at us in a slightly different way or whatever it is, we are gonna have a magnifying glass on that. We're gonna see that as something really, really terrible and maybe criticizing us, and we're gonna be sensitive. So we have to give ourselves a little bit of grace in these moments of recovery. We have to have a little bit of compassion for where we are and understand that, like I said, we might have a magnifying glass going on here. And the second part of this is the other side of compassion, which is the following. We have to remember that the messages that the rest of the world get don't pertain to us. So those messages of healthy eating and exercise and what we should be doing and what is successful in terms of our health or the health of our bodies or what our bodies should look like, those things do not pertain to us. Therefore, we speak a language that really not anybody else can speak unless they have personal experience with this. And it is very hard for other people to put themselves in your shoes. It is not common for people to have to watch themselves to eat enough and watch themselves to not exercise too much. Think about the world around you. You can tell that that is not the norm. Therefore, I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't protect yourself and your mental health around people who may say stupid things, let's be real. But at the same time, understand that other people may not be capable to say the right things in these moments. Gentle education is very good here. Perhaps if it's someone who really means something to you, you can sit them down and talk to them about what you're going through and explain kind of what your mindset is, and maybe they will appreciate that information and be more careful in the future. If it's someone who's just kind of like jerky and they don't really mean much to you, like, whatever. You can't like make friends with everyone, but just sort of pick and choose who you spend that mental energy on. Question came, does hypothalamic amenorrhea predispose you to PMDD after your period? So PMDD would be a premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and basically what it is very, very bad sort of mental side effects pre-period, so PMS like times a million basically. There is not much information on that in particular, but I will tell you that when you come back from hypothalamic amenorrhea and when you are in those initial stages of recovery, you might notice that your premenstrual symptoms in general are much more than they used to be. And the reason for that is that many of us, when we recover from hypothalamic amenorrhea at the beginning, are quite estrogen dominant. And when you are estrogen dominant, you might notice more cramps, more sort of like moodiness, more bloating, more breast tenderness and all those things. So that is a possibility. The way to mitigate the symptoms of this, or I should say to put yourself at ease a little bit, is just the acknowledgement and the awareness that this could create a situation of estrogen dominance. I find that when you educate yourself and you educate yourself about what that means and how what you're feeling is real and you're not nuts or whatever, but you're actually just experiencing more symptoms, and give yourself a little bit of grace again in that time. That education can also make you feel a little bit more relaxed about what you're going through. Oh, here's a good one. Why do injuries take longer to heal when you are energy deficient, or when you have HA or red S as we call it sometimes? You're not gonna like the answer to this one, but I will give it to you. I'm not gonna go down science rabbit holes, but basically here's what it is. When you have HA, your body thinks it's gonna die. Isn't that fun? But it's the truth. Your body, in efforts to curb what it feels are the effects of famine. So basically the body feels as though it's starving to death and it has cut off non-essential functionality in order to keep you alive. So when you are running at a pace where there's not any gas in the tank, there's not really much fuel left over to heal body tissues. So this person, I think, had a knee injury or, you know, even anything else, could be a cold. You're probably going to recover much slower than you would if you had an adequate amount of nutrients in your body. That's just fact. best way to heal from any injury or illness, or the best way to boost your immune system, hey, coronavirus, is to make sure that you're eating an adequate amount of calories every day, making sure that you're getting basic nutrition. So there's so many other questions that you guys asked, so many good questions, but this video is going to be a million years long if I go through all of them. So what I might do is maybe save a few and do maybe another video or so to answer some of the other questions. I will do a quick rundown right now of some of what is going on here in Italy. I live on the coast. I do live in the north. I live about 2.5 hours from the French border on the west coast of Italy. I live a little bit below Genoa. And here in the town, the very small town that I live in, we have 9 cases of coronavirus. Obviously, if you have seen anything about the news, you know that that is not the case farther north and more toward Milan. Here, I know this is going to sound very bizarre, but we don't have any family members or friends that have coronavirus. We don't know anyone personally that had it. You know, we've heard of people, neighbors, and other extended friends or whatever that have experience with it directly, but we do not have it. Thank you for asking about that. I am good. I am anxious. I am just as anxious as all of you are. There's some nights that I can't sleep. There's some nights that I have nightmares. There's some days that I get up and kind of like walk around like a zombie. I don't feel awesome every day. I'm just like all of you. So I just think it's important for us to all normalize what we're going through and understand that the impact of this is going to be felt for a very long time, which is why I'm trying to encourage myself and trying to encourage you to not think about going back to what we knew before, but trying to think about designing a new way forward. And one thing is for sure is that it's not going to be anything like any of us ever knew before. Everything is going to be different. We all have to kind of work together on this and understand that it might be uncomfortable, but it is the only thing we can do right now. We are all together. None of us is alone. We have to not put pressure on ourselves to achieve or be or do or anything. We just have to be okay with being a mess right now. And I think that's uncomfortable for us culturally. Like, I think that we've been socialized to think that we're supposed to be, you know, always doing all these things. But you know what? Like, no, right now is not the time. I think we need to take care of like our heads right now and our hearts, and we need to all be here for each other as much as we can. So I hope this was helpful for you today. I'm probably going to end up doing a couple more videos because there were so many great questions and I do want to hit them all. I do want to share with you a little bit more about my research and hopefully get some of you to participate in my thesis too. So I guess we'll be seeing each other a little bit more. Wherever you are, I wish you health, and I really, really hope that you are okay and taking care of yourself and taking care of the people around you. You're not alone. We're in this together, and I'll see you soon.